Well, thank you again so very much.
As long as you're coming.
I think, I don't know who all was here last week when me and Fabio had the opportunity to speak to you folks initially. We just want to say, again, thank you so much for hosting us, and we applaud you guys for going and doing what we did 10 years ago with cannabis. And so tonight, I'm just really glad that Scott was able to come down here and just speak with you guys, and number one, say thank you so much for the support that you guys gave us this past week, for some of the canvassers that you guys lent your time, your volunteering time for this effort. And again, I just want to introduce Scott. He's a good friend of mine. We were there 10 years ago with this whole endeavor with legalizing cannabis. It's hard enough as it is to run a business, but then running it with two hands held behind your back, with the regulations as they were, all of the hurdles that we faced. And I am just so proud that you know, Scott is running. You know, we've seen what other public officials can do. One running, I'm happy to see a former Marine and also a chef who has helped those that have had debilitating diseases like gastrointestinal cancers, issues with his chefing abilities to really dial that in, to see holistic healing 101. So without further ado, Scott Durrah, the runner for city.
Yeah. This is what politics should not be about, when you just get to hang out like old times and do town hall meetings and just talk and whatever. I mean, let's jump right into it. For those of you who don't know me or myself and my wife, our company, we have a company called Simply Pure. My wife and I wanted to change. We're the first licensed African Americans in the country. We've got one of the first real groups of license here. You know, and I appreciate Ben's family is one of my dear friends, and Fabio's over here working his ass off in my campaign. But really, you know, when we first got into this, my wife is an amazing person. And please look her up, Wanda James. She actually ran Congress, actually our governor, Jared Polis now, ran his first congressional race in Boulder. And we've been at cannabis, social justice and thing our whole entire life. You know, when we got into it, you know, it was with Christian Cedarberg and my wife, and everyone got together and started putting this Amendment 64. We were in the same situation. We had the same, you know, house gatherings or whatever, and it's the same battle. I mean, this is like coming in and saying, shit, I've just been through this shit. This is like deja vu, you know. It's the Twilight Zone, we're doing this again. But it's the same principle. It's the same thing. It's the same audience. It's the same message, you know. And we were successful because it was heart and soul. It wasn't about getting high. You know, it was basically about medical. And we had to really dive into that. And before I sort of talk a little bit more and this isn't a stump speech, so I'm not really talking politically, we'll jump in that afterwards. But, you know, our challenge was at the time is what is the actual audience we're going after? And what I ask you guys to do is you look at the pot business and the cannabis business as the mistakes we made, okay, from Jump Street. And that's the whole thing. It's not getting it, you know, getting it decriminalized. It's like, if you don't stay on top of this, we fucked up. And I say that respectfully, and I say that today, when you're looking at a $6 billion industry since legalization kicked in or whatever. You know, we've created over 40,000 jobs. We've brought taxes and fees and all the city fees, how they screw us all the time, almost $900 million to the state. You know, we have people now graduating from college and coming right into this market, bringing all these opportunities. And that's the pathway for what you guys are going through. It's the same pathway. It's the same thing, it's the same battle. It's the same audience, the same people got to vote on it. But the thing is, learn from our mistakes. Get involved politically from day one. We today, this pot industry, cannabis industry, are not supporting candidates. We have a governor now who only raised, I think, $160,000 from the pot community. But beer is putting this up, alcohol is putting this up, tobacco is putting this up, pharmaceuticals is putting this up. That's the game here. I mean, and sadly, it's really that. And if you start at this level and get behind politicians, if you have a politician in office who actually smokes weed, you know, understands and does mushrooms, that's not one step where we are right now. We've been in this industry for 10 fucking years, and if anyone's taking this, please edit out of that. For 10 years, but it really comes down to where we still don't have an elected official. So what have we gained? An industry that we have no freaking control, no say whatsoever. Don't make those mistakes. You know, find that person. And if it's someone in this room, then your ass needs to run. Or that lady needs to run. Or that person needs to run. That's where it all starts, and that's where we missed the boat, and we still miss the boat today. So remember that, and I'll talk a little bit about what we did and all this stuff, but remember that. Follow that road is the same thing. Now, interesting enough, we got into it initially because of social justice. We had my brother-in-law was actually locked up in Texas in the 80s and 90s for having 1 ounce of weed with 4 other of his friends, and all of a sudden that's a quarter pound. Quarter pound of weed in Dallas, Texas. And anyone from Texas knows, that's a long time in jail. And to make a long story short, he got a long-term probation, and as a 16-year-old, how many 16-year-olds are going to stay on probation for 5 years? That's the system. So he ended up going to jail and doing about 5 years. A little longer, off and on. But he picked cotton in the 1990s in Texas. He picked cotton. And the more cotton he picked, they reduced the sentence. That's this country in the 90s. That's marijuana. Interesting enough is still, until we got into it because of social justice. The business part is another thing. You guys are going to have the opportunity like we had to turn that into a business. Once again, get involved early, you'll control it more than letting the state and the city decide on how your business should be operating. But he got involved, we took him out of that. That was our motivating factor. And we stuck to that. Interesting enough is, even you guys, everyone in here knows, is since the legalization of marijuana, black and brown people, Latinos and brothers, let's say, are the ones still getting arrested the most. Even though there's less going to jail, they're still getting arrested the most. Interesting enough, let's talk about you guys. It's not black kids getting locked up with mushrooms. That's white kids getting locked up now. Okay? For the first time, it's not about black and brown kids going to jail over a drug. That's going to be an interesting issue. Play with it. So that's where we are right now in the society. Now they're locking us all up. No one has a privilege card anymore when it comes to drugs. And we know what's behind it. Pharmaceutical, this and that, whatever. We know that it's a plant-based. We know the medicinal benefits. But they're still going to lock us up. So that's your biggest challenge, and follow our lead. And you guys, like I said, there should be someone in this room, think about it, who should be a candidate. And once this is passed, then that person needs to start running for that next seat, and you guys need to start backing him now, or her now. That's how you stay ahead of this game. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to run. We can talk about my district and attainable housing and homelessness and etc. We're more than happy to talk about that. But right now, I was talking about another reason why I got into this. Because of everything I told you. My wife and I were one of the first. We've been through it all. We got raided for our first grow. Okay? And then Adams County came back and they apologized. Because we had political power around us. We invested in and donated to politicians over our whole career. So when shit got rough, or not rough, but when they were fucking with us, the way we fought them back is because we've already did our part to say, listen, these guys are clean, etc., this and that, but more or less we could fight. Once we knew we could fight, we're squeaky clean. We got into it, there was shit on us. You might find a roach in my ashtray here and there, etc., but there was nothing else. That's why we got into this, and we kept that battle going. And we've had dispensaries. We were the first to have an edible company. I was in 450 dispensaries when it first started. But the city needs me, you. If we're gonna have this battle. We get one, then it's dominoes. Then we go to Boulder, then we go to Colorado Springs, then we go to Greeley, then we go to Vail, then we go everywhere now. We put that same power behind that person. That's how we start changing things. And then these dialogues becomes much easier because we already know once it's passed, we already have someone there protecting it. It's not going to be pimped, prostituted, manipulated like pop was. Colorado is the toughest place in the country to invest in the cannabis business. We're losing billions of dollars because everyone's investing in Cali. Thank God for Canada. Thank God for Canada. And all the other states. But we still embrace it, we vote on it, but our politicians have screwed it up. Thank God for Jared Polis, Governor Polis now, taking that move to open it up. Everything that happens to the cannabis industry is going to happen to you guys. And unfortunately, we lead the way, but we need a stronger back to help us what we didn't do. And that's where I think the connection is. You know, we can talk about medicinal benefits, we know that. You know, you guys know that. We can have a conversation, but it's really about what we need to get this passed. And I would challenge your politicians. See, that's one of the things as well, strategist-wise. Most politicians don't want to touch this right now. But once you say, yeah, but it's locking up white teenagers, ask them that question. Remember, the soccer moms back in the day were the ones that almost prevented us from doing it. And then we asked them the question, would you rather have your kids smell like weed or we can like alcohol? But it's a different conversation I don't know any politician can walk away from, because all of a sudden it touches their race for the first time. For the first time, their race is now involved in this. And let's not be frank, I love Colorado, but the diversity here is very little. You know, thank God for our Latino base here, because other than that, you know, we would have that interracial culture we have here. But that's not, that's what that means is that's another enemy to go after. Challenge them with that. Because that's what we fought on. And today I still fight off for that, to make sure that people of color are not going to jail over cannabis. And I will always fight for that. So use what we've used, flip it. Put them in a position. How do you feel, Jamie, about, you know, all of a sudden kids in Cherry Creek getting locked up? Oh, that's another different conversation. That's how the preacher did it in the city. You know, in LA, you know, it was funny because the black churches didn't support weed for a while. It's the black churches. So the conversation went in, the same thing, all of a sudden it's a matter of, they're locking up our kids. Takes a whole different attitude. So try that as an approach, it might work. Because those little things get those extra votes.
And that's what's so great, if I can interject,
Go ahead, please.
Thunder Scott, is that when you're monetizing people across the board, doesn't matter the racial, you know, background, now they're monetizing people and they're putting them into the criminal justice system and they're making money off of it. And we know this now. So that becomes a fight. And then also making more plant-based alternative medicines available to the people. And that's really what we're fighting up against. A system that now benefits and profits off of monetizing people through the criminal justice system, and also a pharmaceutical industry that benefits off of those that are sick. And you know what? And we're so happy here to join and collaborate in a collaborative spirit to help move that forward, because all of us know somebody that's been in jail, been in prison, that's sick. People that are coming home from theaters of war, our military veterans, having no ability to have a transition back into civilian life. And now I hear studies now from psilocybin that are coming out that could help change that, the PTSD that's involved with our returning war veterans.
Kids who get arrested and can't get a federal loan for college.
That's right.
Okay?
So, you know, all of that is just, all of that's more power that we can give to this. And, you know, whatever we can do, how we can help each other, because this is a fight that a lot of people are suffering from, the sick and those that are still in jail, families that have been torn from the war on drugs and that are still being terrorized to this day. And so not only are plant-based alternative medicines are a healthy district for our district, but it's a healthier Colorado and healthier people. And I think that that's all the discussion that we're having here today. So thank you so much, Scott. I mean, are there any questions that
Are you having conversations with the psychotherapy organizations like Colorado Counseling Association and those groups?
Regarding what, cannabis or the?
No, for you being committed to this, because a lot of the conversations need to be had in those communities, because the therapists aren't being educated on the importance of psilocybin and these medicines.
Yeah,
They're in traditional ways.
we've met with, I believe, the two founders of putting the amendment together. We've supported this 100%.
Right, but to support you as well,
Yeah.
to get in with
That would be more
the
than,
Denver
that'd be
organizations.
beautiful. I mean, what you're saying is right on, and like I said, is when you look at what the two industries can do together, and especially right now is where the cannabis community is comfortable right now. Everyone's working businesses, creating jobs, writing paychecks, and dealing with all the BS. You know, the new energy is you guys. And that's really the interesting thing as well, is how do we put these teams, how do we piggyback off of you to get our agenda to move forward? But on the flip side, it's also, what Ben was saying is that, like, collaboratively in this room right here, if all of you walked for a candidate and you're supporting a candidate, that starts to show it in numbers. okay? So however we can get that larger in group and get behind whether, actually it should be me, because I'm not saying that because I am still the only candidate who's running in the entire city who actually owns a pot shop or a dispensary. There's no one else. There's no one else. People can talk, but unless you know and you've owned a business, you have no say in what's gonna happen at the table. So that's where I come to you and I ask, whatever I can do to help have you guys help me. Because basically that's what's gonna happen. If I'm elected, excuse me?
When?
Thank you. When we win this thing, whatever, then, yeah, my voice is the loudest voice there.
And that's more than what we ever had. We never had anybody at the
we still
table.
don't.
We had nobody. And we still don't to a large degree. But guarantee you, from Jump Street, we had nobody voicing our opinion at all. But that would be great to see a reciprocal collaborative effort happening. How much as we can help you be a voice. Scott's voice is large. But also as well, and we want to respect you guys and your time as volunteers. But if having somebody in like Scott at that kind of city and county level, that's more than what the cannabis industry ever had. And he has it's a domino effect, from that point on. So we're really just talking about strategy here and how we can lift one another up in both of our initiatives because they're so closely tied together.
And that's where I kind of come into play. Hello again to everyone that knows me. My name is Fabio, and to people that don't, again, my name is Fabio. So what we're doing is we're basically tackling both of these issues, the issue of getting Scott elected and the issue of decriminalizing psilocybin in the county and city of Denver in an organized way. How do we do that? How do we convince huge swaths of people who have never even possibly heard about this issue, they know about magic mushrooms, they know it as that, that this is something that we need to move forward, not just as a county, not just as a state, but as a species. This is the epicenter of something truly tremendous and great, and that's really what we need to be talking about at the doors. But we need to go about it in a smart way, so we're going to have a lot of closed doors on us. So we do canvassing. Politically, in canvassing, people are 40% more likely to vote for your candidate or issue if you go and talk to them on the door about an issue. It takes 2 times for it to start to seep in. You make an impression the first time, but it can take up to 7 times for you to truly convince them. So what does that mean? We need to talk to everyone as many times as possible. We need to be on the doors, engaging with people in real conversations that actually matters. Not just some wishy-washy bullshit. You guys are here for a reason. So thank you for coming and thank you for supporting this, but we need to take the next step and move forward. How do we do that? Sign this. Give me your information, I'll reach out to you guys, and we'll make sure that we do this thing right. Organized as a unit, and making sure the tip of the spear is as sharp as possible.
One thing I can guarantee everyone in this room is I never thought I'd run for politics, because I just figured I didn't have to. Better off to yell and scream, you can say what you want and everything else, and that's who I'm from Boston. That's who I am, and I never thought I would, because I was most effective myself, and like I said, and please look at my wife, Wanda Jane. She's one that badass person, is one of the most respectable cannabis people in this country, and has done so much for this state. And women are another thing. Women are now taking a lot of more executive ownership and roles in the cannabis industry, which is great. So that's another key thing what I love about the movement that you guys are on. We got a lot of women in power right now, and once again, women think a little different than men. Okay, thank God. So there's a lot of movement there, but I did this because I had to, because like I said, and we've discussed this many years. This young man right here is the one who should be running at some point, and hopefully it'll be my seat, after I get it. But we need to really just bond together, and I just decided because there's no one else. There is actually no one else, and there's so much crap that goes on in the cannabis industry for those who are in it, at City Hall, fees, what we go through. We move a POS system 5 feet, we have to go through a 3-step process to get it modified and approved, to move a register 3 feet, at a charge of $1,500 on the state and city level. Every single thing we do. And I just got fed up with it. I've invested well over $5 million in this industry since we started. We've won, we've lost, we've been successful. But I've seen friends and families, whatever, just lose homes and businesses and everything else from an industry that the city and the state is profiting from like a son of a bitch. And I said, I gotta do this. My wife thought I was crazy and said, yeah, hi, go back to bed. And I said, no. and I'm not a politician, and I don't need this. And with that being said, that makes me the best fighter in the world.
Because the alternatives are people like Amanda Sandoval. And what is that? It's another brick in the wall. Pink Floyd said it best. It's just another brick in the wall. Because her political contributors are people like the former Wellington Webb, who are individuals who just was quoted in Michigan in 2018, August of last year, saying, it was a mistake for cannabis. It was a mistake for cannabis to be legalized, to treat people with, medicinal plant to heal their ailments, to give them a life again. That's ridiculous. We don't need more of that. We don't need another brick in the wall in city council. And that's why I get goosebumps when I come here, and we have our friends to thank that are visiting us from the north, up in Canada, who are standing here in solidarity with us this evening. This is history in the making, and I love seeing this, and I couldn't be prouder of the city. I couldn't be prouder to call you guys, my residents, my fellow Coloradans. We're moving. We are movers and shakers in this room. So again, thank you so much this evening for giving us your time to listen to us. And please, again, keep Scott in mind. Let's keep the collaboration going, and let's make this shit happen. Let's make it a healthier country. Yeah.